Good evening / good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my channel. Today is the first part of the Tansmanian Invasion breakdown. In this video, we are learning about the prologue of how the war began, where it take place, and what were the main events that would lead up to the war. Basically, we're doing a prologue / the cause. So, without further ado, and no time to delay, let us move on with the presentation. After Tansmania's defeat by the Allied forces during the conclusion of the Second Green and Tan War, which lasted from April 9th to June 20th of 2023, by having two nukes launched on their two major cities, resulting with Emperor Hirohito at the time to unconditionally surrender. And the names of these cities was Takasaki and Hiroshima. Yes, it's a parody version of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. No disrespect of their actual cities or place. This is all fictional. Just to paraphrase. Tansmania and their allies, Condas and Talon, were forced to be disbanded due to a treaty the Imperial Court made, which was known as the Demilitarization Act of 2023. Note, one ally I forgot to mention was the Loyalists of Merlant that support Tansmania when they occupied the country. It's a map of Tenyo during the year 2023 before the war, and took half of the population under their rule. But when the rebel leader Jean Medong planned a reunification uprising against Tansmania, they decided to change sides in the end, resulting with Tansmania to also lose Merlant and Merlant to be independent again. Which basically what happened here is Merlant used to be occupied, split in half by Tansmania and Condas. By Tansmania and the other population. And during the war, Zhao Medong wanted to reunite the country as a whole, so he led a rebellion. And with the rebellion happening and the Allied forces supporting the rebels liberating Merlant would finally be reunited as a whole and have Tansmania removed from its country permanently, especially with the Demilitarization Act of the treaty. So that's that. Now, continuing, the treaty that Tansmania signed does mention that some of the terms were that the nation or nations must disband their alliances and cut the military offensive and defensive forces in half, along with banning any kind of militaristic weapon productions, which Hirohito agreed to keep peace with his enemies. The options from Talon and Condas were entirely different. Condas was glad to be free from Tansmanian rule because they have served Tansmania for about 2 years, which resulted in a lot of strain economically and politically, while Talon relied on Tansmania since their nation was still vulnerable. And they saw Tansmania as their protectors and would eventually reunite their alliance during the beginning of the war, which would take place very soon. After Tansmania successfully reunited their alliance with Talon, the leader of Tansmania, Emperor Hirohito, wanted to try and reunite with Condas to rebuild his empire through a diplomatic negotiation. The way he was going to do this was sending a message to the leader of Condas, Machi-hun, through telegram, but they would wait to avoid suspicion and to not be intercepted or caught by the Allied forces. Also, during this month of 2023, on the 21st of January, 3 new nations were introduced and discovered in the continent of Tenyo, which were Brazil, Mongolia, and Slovakia. Mongolia would be Hirohito's main focus because it would be sharing its border with Merlant in the northeast, which could give Tansmania the advantage if they were planning on re-invading Merlant or intimidate them into not destroying their new empire by occupying them as a colony, which is what Hirohito wanted. Okay, now we're moving on to the cause. The leader of Condas, Machi-hun, would receive the telegram message from Tansmania on January 28th, 2024. Based on the newspaper that also documented this, It is stated that Hirohito tried to ask Machihun to rejoin their alliance to rebuild their empire, but that was crumbled. But Machihun refused because he didn't want to be a colonial ally/puppet anymore. Hun also had sensed that there was more reason for Tansmania to reunite with his country and began to invite the nations Morlant, Yongolia, and Basanja to a meeting in the capital of Kanoi to discuss about the situation. All of the four leaders had the same feeling that Hirohito was planning and preparing for a war, and that they should mobilize their armies and prepare for Tansmania's reclaim for its lost territory. Another two nations were invited by Machihun attending the meeting about this incident were President Leon of Greenland and General George de la Cruz of the Philippine Islands. They decided to stay neutral and help Machihun and the others by giving them supplies, but they also have decided to man their defenses in case Tansmania plans on attacking them as well. Tansmania, angered by Konda's refusal and betrayal, decided to reunite with Talon and conduct their invasion plan together.